Hello, Fearless Gamers. Matt here for Fearless Games, and welcome to another entry in the Book Corner. And today's book review is going to be of Ahriman Undying by John French. 40k's most infamous sorcerer is back in the latest edition of his own series. Ahriman Undying takes place right after the events of Ahriman Eternal. We now see Ahriman on his way to look for the Key of Infinity, an ancient Necron device with the power to send someone back into their past so they can make changes and rewrite their future. This is the key to everything Ahriman has been working for, to save his legion from the curse of the rubric. But it's not going to be an easy task, because not only is Ahriman looking for this, he has to try and beat out Setek, the Necron who created the Key of Infinity, who has dedicated all of his dynasty's forces to hunting it down and getting there before Ahriman does, so he can use it to rain vengeance down on the Necron dynasties that had wronged him in the past. There's also dissensions in the ranks of Ahriman's cabal, for many sorcerers are now starting to question if Ahriman's goals line up with the Legion's and if he is really doing what's best for the Legion. And on top of all of this, he has to deal with the Pyrodomon, which is still running rampant throughout the Legion to basically wipe it out and make it the way the rubric was intended to make the Legion. So it is a literal race against time. Who is going to get to the Key of Infinity and who's going to achieve their ultimate goal first? That's what Ahriman Undying is here to answer. And once again, John French knocks it out of the park. He takes a character that, as the codexes and rulebooks always describe him, as arrogant, self-absorbed, and convinced he knows more than anybody and knows the right thing at all times, and makes him relatable. You kinda wanna see him succeed despite how much of a jerk he is. And that's what makes it great. He can take a character that is basically depicted as this horrible person and make it where you're okay with following a story about them for 9 hours. Because I read the audiobook, which also performed masterfully. There were 1 or 2 voices of side characters that I wasn't a big fan of, but thankfully they're not in it long. But when they show up, they're kind of annoying because they like scream and shout in these shrilly voices, and it's just like, oh, please, let's move on and stop using that voice. But other than that, solid narration for the audiobook. So if you're looking for the audiobook version, I would say it's worth it if you want to read this story. The story itself is great. It's got a lot of action, got a lot of interesting events, a lot of some mystery, suspense, because you really don't know what's going to happen if Ahriman's going to succeed, or whether or not Ahriman can fix what's going on, because it is getting pretty bad. The first quarter of the book is a little problematic because the book is dealing with time and time manipulation, and there's not a clear indication of how they're marking time with the chapters. So the first quarter gets a little bit confusing, because 1 minute you'll read about a character dying, then like 2 chapters later they're alive again, with no clear indication on whether the events beforehand happened or not, because again, they don't give us any real way of gauging that. But once you get past the first quarter, then the book starts going in a more linear fashion, and it's a lot easier to follow. We also do get a nice look into Necron dynasties with Setek's dynasty. More so in the sense like we get a nice look at how he interacts with all of his legions and his mindset about other dynasties, which kind of paints a very interesting picture, because in a lot of the game rulebooks and such, the Necrons are kind of more could be misinterpreted as a unified force going across the galaxy, when that's not the case, or universe, sorry, which is not really the case. They do have infighting, they do disagree with each other, and this book, through Setek and his opinion on other dynasties, helps us see that more. There is one little bit about the ending that some people may go, really? We're doing that? It's sort of a clumsy cliche in my opinion, and I was hoping they wouldn't do it, but I knew they were going to, and it's not bad, it doesn't ruin the story, but it is one of those, oh, come on guys, really? Moments. It could have been done a little better than they did it. But overall, the story does conclude with a nice finisher to everything. Loose ends are tied up, so if the unfortunate happens and there is no other books in this series, you won't be left hanging going, oh great, now where do I go from here? And one interesting bit also is I'm not 100% sure on the timeline of these books anymore. When they originally started, I thought the first 3 books happened just a little bit before the Wrath of Magnus campaign in, I believe it was 7th edition. So I thought that took place like that, and then Ahriman Eternal and Ahriman Undying were after that. So in this point, Guilliman and the Primaris Marines are out. But nothing in the story, and looking back on it, nothing in Ahriman Eternal really indicates that Primaris Marines exist and Guilliman's awake and Magnus is running around the galaxy again. The universe, sorry. So it's not really clear where this takes place. I'm fairly certain all of it takes place before the Wrath of Magnus campaign, specifically because of one bit that happens in the epilogue, which when you tie it to what we know about Ahriman through the codexes, makes it seem like all of this takes place before modern-day 40k, and even before the events of, 6th and 7th edition. But overall, solid story. If you're a fan of Ahriman, if you love the Thousand Sons, you're going to enjoy this book. And like I said, this could be the conclusion of Ahriman's story, but I really hope it isn't, because, once again, even though he may be a total jerk, I enjoy reading stories about him and his quests. So, if you guys have read the book, what did you think about it? What was your favorite part? What did you like? Didn't like? Just be mindful with your comments that some people may not have read it yet, so try to keep them spoiler-free. And if you haven't already, hit that little subscribe button, click that little like button, and hit that little bell icon as well. We would really appreciate it. So, thank you all for watching, and until next time, fearless gamers, take care!